All right, so idea number one for Ash. Let me show you quickly few things. As always, we go into my reviews mining document. This time, also like the other episodes, I have a tab called anxiety, where I basically recorded the list of all the anxieties that people had before they bought the product.
Could you make the font, could you make the view a little bigger potentially?
Yeah, like this.
Thank you. Yeah, even bigger maybe for this tab. Perfect. That's it, perfect.
Yeah, and as you can see on the top, people are saying, oh, was a little bit skeptical before buying because I felt like it was too good to be true, right? Which, I want to kind of like, this tells me that there's a little bit of like lack of trust around, well, how is that possible that a blanket is able to make me fall asleep faster, reduces my anxiety. So there's a little bit of, again, like, kind of like, oh, it feels like magic almost, right? How is that possible that all of a sudden a blanket, without really seeing any sort of like technology behind it, is able to bring me from a status that I have where I can't sleep at night. A few personas, which I will be addressing in a little bit, also mentioned some like physical conditions and psychological conditions that is preventing them from sleep, to a situation of like, oh my God, all of a sudden, thanks to this blanket, I can now sleep. Now, what happens is that the skepticism becomes even bigger if the user, the customer, has previously bought other weighted blankets in the past, and those didn't work for him or her, right? So now all of a sudden we have, and it's actually something that I would love to, if I were working with these guys, I would love to understand how many of their current customers, or actually how many of the customers that start buying the product actually previously owned a weighted blanket before, and what their experience looks like. Because if they are switching from a weighted blanket that they bought before and that did not work, now the skepticism around the whole concept of weighted blanket is even higher, right? Now, obviously, they have, as we showed earlier, we have this section around the skeptical down here, which is good that they basically like, they're introducing an objection, right, that people might have probably before even, and this is my speculation here, probably before even the user has that objection. Now, something that I would do here is because it's almost like half the page on mobile. Sure, on mobile, people tend to scroll a little bit more than desktop just because of the nature of the device. But I would want to understand how many people actually reach this point, to see like how many people are actually seeing the skepticism behind it, right? Now, so I have a few ideas around how to kind of like how they can try to solve this skepticism and lack of trust issue. So idea number one is to basically like, what if, I wonder if these guys have done any scientific study or scientific trial around the impact that weighted blanket has on sleep. And if so, they should definitely show it on the website, right? This is like, it's a great way to build trust and show people that a lot of people have gotten a bunch of results from that, right? Then, the other thing is like, how is that possible that a blanket is able to make people fall asleep faster, right? So they should be explaining like the whole technology behind it a little bit more. Just giving like how is that possible? Give me a reasons why. And I actually looked up on Google. I did a little bit of Google research, and I found this kind of like a definition of a weighted blanket. Let me read it out loud to you, Rishi. Weighted blankets are believed to stimulate production of happiness hormones like dopamine and serotonin, and reduce levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. This helps the user enter in a more relaxed state, which is conducive to sleep, right? Now, this is just me Googling, the meaning of weighted blanket. But what I thought this is interesting is that they're actually a little bit explaining how it's possible that a weighted blanket helps people,
love it.
sleep, right? The other thing I had is, again, the skepticism around results and how is that possible. One idea I had here, and this comes from like actually a voice of the customer, straight from a quote from reviews mining, where a user basically said, "Oh, I know I can now sleep better because I have an Apple Watch device, right, that actually tracks my sleeping patterns. And I compared the sleeping pattern of before I bought the blanket and after. So now I'm like, well, this is a perfect example of why don't they show a testimonial that compares the sleeping pattern of an iWatch or like another tool, another device that people use to kind of like start tracking sleeping patterns is Oura Ring. I don't know if you've seen it, like people wearing like a ring, just because it's like, some people don't like to go to sleep with the watch on. So why don't they show a testimonial or even like a story, like a user story, customer story that shows before and after of the sleeping pattern and how the user was able to now gain 2-3 hours of sleep thanks to the weighted blanket, right? Yeah, that's kind of like all I got for this idea.